Ali, go ahead and introduce us, man. Introduce what we got going on.
Man, just do your thing, man.
Go ahead. Go ahead, bro. Go ahead, man. Introduce. I'm gonna let you do this one. Please. For me, please.
It shouldn't be much of an introduction, man.
You know,
it's just me, man. It's just me.
I mean, you ain't even really gotta introduce it because
just do it then.
He's very familiar to the show now, you know, and the last show that he was on was basically introduced what we were about to do,
right? And
we named it Slanguage. So we gonna get into the language of things from a biblical text, from a biblical aspect, you know, and try to make sense of it, like you say. So we still ain't came up with a name for it, but we'll work that out. So we back with
it's a Bible series. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, we talking about the Bible.
Yeah, for all you Bible people, this probably be a good study for y'all.
Sanchez wanted to call it niggas in the Bible.
That was your idea. But I would need y'all to like, share, and follow this the podcast on YouTube. Like, share, and follow on Instagram. Just want to go ahead and get that out there, you know what I'm saying? Push that like button, push that share button, push that subscribe button. You know what I'm saying? And we back with P&on, like as we like to call him, Pernell, Mr. Pernell Span. And
what up?
Yeah. And he's got some interesting information that we consider, that we feel like is much needed in society when it comes to talking about, you know, the Bible and biblical texts and the language of society.
Buckle your seats, you heard?
I knew it was something special about this thing from the beginning. Yeah, for sure. That's why I stuck with it. Telling the truth, there's a certain level of pride that comes with this. So we gon' finish strong, proud, and resilient. This is muddy water. We keep it moving through the muddy water. Swerving hard through the muddy water. With a cup full of muddy water. Jumping out the muddy water. Pumping out the muddy water. We build bricks with this muddy water. Put them filters down, this is raw and uncut. And ain't no chaser with this mud, just straight to the good. I say we going live, he say nigga what's up. I say we getting high, he say nigga roll up. Another topic of discussion, a conversation piece. Monumental black boom born out of necessity. Now put them cups up, make a toast and feed on this recipe. Wise words, this is poor righteous teaching. From a rich type feature, adding wealth to my creature.
So let's get into it, man. What's first? I know on the last show you said you was gonna go you gonna start at Genesis. 1 through 10.
Over time, it'll be to the 10th one. I would say first and foremost, Bible is one of the most, if not the most controversial book in the world. Many people from all walks of life use it, abuse it, or discredit it, or every aspect of it. You love it, and then you got the ones who hate it. So what I'm just trying to do is to give a perspective of just from language, that once you understand how it's written in the language it was intended for, it'll read different. From there you can pick your poison. But so I would say most people know like the King James version. So that's the version that we'll be dealing with as we go throughout the series. the King James 1611 version. That's the one that the world pretty much knows. There's 1,000 different versions of the Bible, but that's the main one. Even if your grandma's house got the Bible sitting on that coffee table, it's most likely the King James. Even if it never get cracked open, it's most likely the King James version. So that would be the one that we'll be dealing with.
How we gonna start this, man? Cause the conversations we've been having, we had conversations today through text.
Well, we talked about
wow, that's a lot of shit.
How we gotta put the language back in the right context.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you start doing that?
Well, one thing people gotta understand is that as we talking now, we're speaking a language called English. Most of us went through school in our youth learning how to use English the proper way as what we were told. So we'll use words in our everyday conversation, but do we really know the meaning of the word? So we might say, let me go to the store. All of those are words that have meanings to them. And throughout our schoolings, it'll just be like, oh, we might know one meaning of the word, and we just always use it like that. But with a book as complex as the Bible, those words that's in there might have 10 different meanings depending on the context it was written in the sentence. So with that being said, I think a lot of people read that book, or any book for that matter, with the one meaning of the word without fully understanding that word might not have that meaning for that particular sentence. That in itself changes the game when it comes to reading anything, not just the Bible, just anything. So what we'll be dealing with is the etymology of the word. Etymology means the root meaning of the word. And usually when it comes to English isn't a language that, let me say this. English is probably the most versatile language in the world. Countries all over the world, there's people there that would speak English. So with that being said, the Bible wasn't originally, it wasn't in English. It was in what some people would call Hebrew or Aramaic or Arabic, things of that nature. So with that being said, the words in those languages were translated in English. So when you understand that, you might read a word that you just know in your regular English language and read it from the etymology of the word or the root word of it, and it don't mean nothing what you thought it meant. So that's how we're gonna go through this series. It's not about knocking anybody's religion or boosting anybody's religion. It's about understanding words and language. From that, people could take that how they want to take that. But that's all we're going to be dealing with when it comes to that. So when we do this, we're going to see three things. We're going to see like language or literature, English, whatever you want to call it in school. And we're going to see science, and we're going to see history. Those are the three things that we'll see. So we'll take the religion parts out of it and just deal with those three things, because that's really what's in there.
So before we get started, we live on Instagram now. Hopefully, what up, Shay? You know, I can't really see it too good by when I'm sitting back, but we'll get to y'all's questions if you have any questions. If you can hear, let me know you can hear. If you can't, let me know. But like I say, like, share, and follow. But my first question is, before you get into the scriptures and the chapters, what do you think about the evolution of language?
What do I think about it? Well, language is universal, so it'll always evolve. Okay. The universe is always evolving. So with that being said, you know, music is a language that always evolves. Even in sign language, you know, people using their bodies to speak for them. And even in that, when you translate that, it's always a word or words comprised together. Music, same way. You could write out music notes and tell what the composers are trying to convey just through music notes. So language in itself always going to evolve.
So why is it important to go back to and look at it at the origins of words if evolution is inevitable?
Well, because the book is old book and people try to apply or not apply that book that we're talking about, the Bible, to their lives without understanding the intent of the writing. So it's not a new book. We're reading stuff that was written hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years before we was even, thought of. So
You kind of compare it to like the 70s. If you read something in the 70s using slang, you might not even know what they're saying now.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
The terminology was just different.
Right. Even in recipes, people cook, to make cornbread, it might be some foundations that you use, but people over time have took stuff out, added to make their own versions of it. But it's still cornbread. The literature that we're going to be talking about is the same. People have took things out of it and made it their own. I'm not here to do that. I'm here to read it to the best of my ability from the intent of the writers, because whatever the writer's intent was is what's important, because these people been dead years and the words that they wrote still speak in volumes. Whether you agree with it or not, like I said earlier, we can all say that book is affecting lives today. And that book was written 700, 800 years ago. So if it wasn't important, it wouldn't be needed today. People use it to control, as well as people use it to better themselves. That's how powerful it is.
Can you think of a better book to study to kind of put the whole thing into?
I would say any quote unquote ancient manuscripts should be looked at, because 9 times out of 10, those people, we fall in line somewhere with them as their descendants. So whether they meant good or evil when they wrote these things down, somebody descends from these people. Those people are dead and gone, but there's people living in the world that come from those people. So from that alone, you should want to know, especially if it's a possibility that you come from them. It's no different than sitting talking with your elders in your family about times when they were young. So that would go for the Quran, and any the Dead Sea Scrolls, Laws of Ma'at, any ancient book that we all say our people wrote. You should look at it to see the thinking back then was different than now. So from that, you could apply the thinking by what they wrote, because they're writing basically from their brain, whether it's their current events at the time or whatever, recipes for alchemy, whatever it is, they had the blueprint, because we are doing everything we do today start from people before us. So ain't nothing new under the sun. So with that being said, you might as well go back to older times to try to see how you can better yourself, or if you want to take advantage of somebody, use it to take advantage, because these books were all used for both sides of things, good or evil. You just depend on what side you want.
Like history never stops being written.
Exactly. The thing about it though, it is history, his story. So we here to unfold his story, whoever his is, and see where we meet in that or not at all. That's the whole point.
Where when you say we, who is we?
We as a people.
As a people,
and
what people?
Melanated people, particularly the ones in America. Because we filming this in America, ain't like we
right
in Dubai somewhere.
Don't know nothing about it.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's my take on that.
So go ahead and go get into it, man. Where you want to start it? I know you said Genesis chapter 1.
Okay. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna quote the site that I'm using, so these guys could put it maybe in like the description earlier on. So I am gonna be reading from a website called Blue Letter Bible. That's it has a bunch of different Bibles on there, but then you can go back and click the language that you want it to be interpreted in. So Blue Letter Bible will be what I'm reading from, and I have a dictionary right here. I don't know. It's a New Webster dictionary. It breaks down each letter in the alphabet, in our alphabet, from A to Z. It gives you the earliest form of the word all the way to the current time that we use today. There's other resources people can use, but those two are what I normally use when I'm reading, because again, the book was written before my time, and it was, I have to understand what they were saying in the language they wrote it. So I'm gonna go to Genesis 1:1, and that's the King James Version. Like I said, I'm reading from the King James Version because that is the version that was published to the masses of the world. There were other versions prior to this, but they didn't stick like the King James Version. So Genesis 1:1. So from Blue Letter Bible, it would say, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. So on this site, by each scripture, it says tools. So I don't know if they can, trying to focus out where they can see. It's not gonna focus.
No, it's too bright.
Okay. Well, you're gonna put the link in the description. So
Yeah.
So,
I can screenshot that and send it to me.
I got you.
Yeah, I'll throw it.
Okay.
As I edit.
Okay. So when you go to the site, right? Every scripture in there has a box near it called tools. So what we do is we'll click tools, and then actually let me step back. So the Bible, the Old Testament, was originally written in a language called Semitic, because we're talking about language. Some people today call that Hebrew. You got some people that call it modern Hebrew. Some of the other people, like religious organizations like Hebrew Israelites or whatever, they call it Phoenician Hebrew. But Hebrew itself isn't a language. That is not a language. The language would be Semitic, and that would be Semitic, Semitic. Hebrew just means, it's a word that means to cross over, but that's not, Hebrew itself is not a people or a language. But people would be Shemitic, and they spoke Shemitic, like we are American and we speak American, So the language of America would be English, and we'll maybe throughout the series we'll talk more about that, like how do we speak English. But so when you click tools, it gives you a concordance in modern Hebrew. Modern Hebrew is what Jewish people speak today. The problem is the Bible wasn't written in modern Hebrew. It was written in what I mentioned earlier, Semitic, which is what some people will call Phoenician Hebrew or Paleo Hebrew, things of that nature. So in this dictionary right here, from A to Z, it gives you like the letter A. Actually, I'll pull it up. So let's see. All right. So the letter A. So you see the big ass letter A there. All of this right here is showing the forms of letter A, from the earliest form to today's current form. So from letter A to Z, every form, the earliest form in each one says early North Shemitic. So the foundation of the English language, according to Webster's Dictionary, Noah Webster Dictionary, is Semitic. That is the foundation of the English language from A to Z. And this thick ass book shows that. All right. So that is why you want to take these English words in this King James Bible and see what it meant in the Semitic language. So when you go to that site, it gives you modern Hebrew, but then it gives you some options to break down the modern Hebrew word down, which is called etymology, the root meaning. So as you click that, it's going to give you, it'll say an earlier form of that modern Hebrew word. And it tends to say primitive root or unknown origin. In my opinion, they know what the origin is, but they can't really say that. So they'll say unknown or of uncertain primitive origin. So y'all already know they always call us primitive people and savages and things like that. But yet and still, the language that we speak is that they call it a primitive form, which would be Semitic, which is the language that the scripts of the Bible were written in and then translated to English. So the English language itself, and I'm repeating it so people understand, the foundation of it is Semitic. Because if I showed y'all in that dictionary, it goes from Semitic to another later form, all the way up to current English. So the foundation is why we have to translate the word, because the people that wrote it before King James got it translated, that is the original writings. And you want to read it from that point, and that's where the whole reading it in our language changes. Because now you know what the intent of the writer meant, because you read it in their language. So in the beginning, God created heaven and earth. Now I'm going to show y'all what in the beginning means. In the beginning is 3 words in English, but it's 1 word in Semitic. All right, so I'm gonna do it on my phone to take us over there. So the first word was a modern Hebrew word, and it's of a feminine noun. So in the beginning, it's feminine. So we starting out this book with a feminine source already in the beginning. Those 3 words, it start out with feminine. All right, and it says the word is Rashif, but that's just modern Hebrew. That's what the Jewish people speak today. So we don't want that. We want the root word. So I'm going to click on that. It says root word etymology. Now that word is Roshe, R-O-S-H-E. All right? And that means to shake. All right? So in the beginning means Rashi, means to shake. Now, it also means a chief, a height, a head of a city, nation, family, or priest. So those 3 words meant all that right there. Okay? So now, when I'm at the etymology page, there's another section I could scroll down to, and it gives me, it's called the Brown Drives Briggs Lexicon. It gives me more in detail of what the word would mean. So it says a common Semitic word, earliest form of Arabic, and it gives me the word heightened. And it also says that is of Egyptian and Aramaic. All right? And it says North Semitic inscriptions, and it says cook, like C-O-O-K-E, so like capital C-O-O-K-E, like someone's surname or last name. And it also says Duval. Now, we in America, so Duval County is like, that's in Florida. That's most people, if they never been there, they at least heard of it, or even the comedian Lil Duval. His name is that because he's from Duval County. All right? So that one word, Roche, in Semitic, is the word for in the beginning. And it meant a heightened, it means to be shaken, and it says heightened chief or priest or family or nation. The names that came up said Cook and Duval. Now, that may sound like a lot, or I know it's new, but let's keep going. But that's how you would read the words in the beginning in English. All you have to do is break those words down to the earliest form and you get the meaning. So now in the beginning God created heaven and earth. The creation story that is told already, just those 3 words don't even mean that a God created heaven and earth like what we were taught. We already seen a location, a people or a person, and a title already just in the beginning. Okay, so now the word was in the beginning, God. So I'm gonna go to God. We still in verse 1. We probably just gonna do verse 1 and maybe verse 2
We
today.
in the first 4 words.
Alright.
Oh man.
And I'm gonna do this first scripture that I'm reading, then I'm gonna stop and we could talk about it, or they might have some questions, or if y'all got questions online, or whatever y'all want to say. All right, so God, it says in the beginning God. So God, through the same process I just said. So I'm looking up God. Modern Jewish would say Elohim. That ain't the word I want. I want to break down that word. So I got to go back further, which would be Shemitic. So I'm going to click that. And then it gives me Eloha. It gives me another form I can break down even more. I want to break this down as far as I can to where it tells me it's primitive or unknown origin. So I clicked it again, and now I can't break it down anymore. So I just have Ale, like ALE or EL. So I'm going to see what the biblical usage of it is. So it gives me goodly, it gives me idols, it gives me mighty, it gives me mighty men of rank, it gives me false gods, and it gives me strength and power. But the first one, the first meaning is mighty men of rank or mighty heroes. So that's plural, that's multiple people, but it said in the beginning God. That God right there is multiple entities or men. Actually, I left out a part. A lot of the Bibles back then, it would say in the beginning, gods created heaven and earth. But by the time this version was published, they just put God. But breaking the word down, we see that it says mighty men. So that's plural. That's more than one. So we're not talking about a God that's sitting on a throne in the sky, so-called Father Time. That ain't what the writer is saying. It's saying that these are some mighty men.
So in the beginning means one word, and God means multiple words.
Yeah, and multiple people.
It's just not, this man. This whole. It sounds like a rap song already. Shaking mighty men, shaking mighty men. You feel me?
And rap is what? Slang mostly, right?
Sound like a rap song already, bro. That's crazy. But go ahead. Yeah, I just thought that was kind of funny.
All right. So if we go from in the beginning, also said. Let me go back.
We make a song we gotta do.
Hey, please do.
Shaking mighty men.
So I'm gonna go back to in the beginning because there's a part that I left out. Let me get to it. Where we at? Okay, so the last part I left out in the beginning, I mentioned Duval, right? It also says, so the whole statement of that means height in the south. In the beginning means height in the south. And it says a town of the Simeonites. So I know that's a lot, and it's like, okay, what the hell is this town and all that? But I mentioned Florida because Duval County is Jacksonville, Florida, basically. Now Peter in the Bible, which is New Testament, his other name in the Bible would be Simeon. So this word Rache, that meant in the beginning, sums up to mean the height of the South, which is a town of the Simeonites. Now, there's a part of Florida called St. Petersburg. A lot of the saints in the Bible have names here in America, especially down in the low country area of the South. You got St. Petersburg, you got St. John's, you got a lot of saints out here. The saints come marching in, as they say. So now in Florida you have, and let me know if I'm going too fast. In Florida you have a nation of people called Seminoles. Okay? The Seminoles is a tribe in Florida. We're not going to get into the tribal thing today, but that is a tribe in Florida. Most of us have heard of them. But also, most people don't know that the Seminoles fought a lot of wars here in America. They're by the water, so they could navigate through water very well. They had things like warships. They didn't have the canoes like we were taught in school. They had warships, the big ass naval shit that we see. And I was doing some research, and shout out to Chief Janice, by the way, because I seen her talk about this a couple years ago, but it makes sense. But basically, Library of Congress has documents of American history. And on there, they have a warship from the Seminoles called the Seminole ship / Simon, like Simeon old ship. Now, my theory, just looking at the words, they look too similar. You have a town of the Simeonites, which is what in the beginning translate to Duval County, which is Florida. The Seminoles are located in Florida. And Peter in the Bible, name is Simeon, and that translates to low country. That area of Florida and Georgia and parts of South Carolina is all called the low country.
Yep.
So, shout out to my brother right here. His family come from the low country area, so you could attest to what I'm saying. So, just in those three words, plus the word God that I just read, which meant mighty men, or also means principal chiefs. So, basically, that would read, what was it? It was easy to shake. So, in the height of the South, there was a group of mighty men that were easy to shake. Let's stop right there. I ain't even read nothing else. I'm gonna stop right there to see what y'all want to do with that.
So what does that mean?
That's right.
What does shake mean in that context?
A shake in that context is so also poor and weak. So these mighty men, whatever they were dealing with at the time, it made them poor and weak. Because I also see words like false gods, yet they were noble men. It also God also translates to noble men. So these are people of stature. You only deal with nobility when we're talking about kingdoms, by the way. You know, people can say they noble, but when we talk about back then in Old English, because the Bible is Old English, is kingdoms. So it's kingdom talk. So these men in the beginning were easy to shake, but wherever they were was the height of the South, and we just so happened to see Duval there in Seminole country / Simeon country, which means Peter, and St. Petersburg is out there.
Sure is.
But there's so many. That's what I'm saying. There's so many other ways that you can go just with the in the beginning.
Yeah, and that's the point. These people who wrote.
Give me another one from in the beginning. Give me another one. Let's put that together and see. I don't know, man.
All right, no problem. Man. Let me go back. So you want another meaning for in the beginning? Okay. All right. So, Rache, is that Shemitic word?
Right.
So you got heightened, you got hence.
Hence.
So when they break the words down and put it together, when you scroll to the bottom, it means the height of the South. So they take them, just like we formulate sentences now, we'll take 2 or 3 words or 10 or whatever to make the sentence make sense. So yeah, we see hence and heightened. They compiled it to say height of the South. So when we're dealing with height, like I'm 6'2". So if you're saying, and now South, we already think low, like below, because the South is below the North, obviously. So if you're saying height of the South, I don't think we're dealing with something that's low in stature. Because in order for you to measure my height, you got to measure me from head to toe or toe to head. So it's the whole thing. And Jacksonville is at the top of Florida, which will be called Timken territory. It was kingdoms there. A lot of these scholars did a lot of digging and dug up a lot of old shit in that area. And it's a tourist area. It's a very popping area. But there were people there at one point. Now, we're going to revisit this point I'm about to make, but I got to make it to try to make this make a little bit more sense. So in the beginning, in the Bible, they talk about Adam, right? So Adam, as time goes on through the Bible, the entity Adam has children that come on so forth, and the Bible start breaking down the genealogy. You get to Noah. Noah would be Adam's, according to just reading it from the way we were taught to, would be his grandson. That is the same person who built the ark, put all the animals on, that guy. The thing about that, and like I said, I'm going to come back to this point later in the episode. When he built the ark, he was commanded from quote-unquote God to use wood, and he gave him these measurements. The Bible maps out all of these measurements that need to make this ark. He also told him the type of tree to use. The tree that he was told to use was gopher wood. So gopher wood, the other word for gopher wood would be cypress trees, pine trees. Those are all up and down in the southeast region, especially in Florida. A whole lot of it in Florida, the cypress trees. So in order for you to build an ark of such mass structure, you would have to be, to me it would make sense, you would have to be in the location to have abundant supply to build something that massive. So, like I said, that tree is native to Florida, and that was used to build that big boat, put the animals on.
I think I got a good question here though.
What's that?
Since we dealing with just those 4 words, somebody asked, in your opinion, how can you be mighty and also shaken? Easily shaken.
Well, titles could make someone mighty in itself. It's like people get power behind the badge. You know, they feel mighty because their title makes them feel like that. And even the other side of it, you could be a strong man and be weak at times in your life. Mighty people they're not immune to being weak.
And that was Pink Cloud's question.
It's a good question.
Appreciate that question, Pink Cloud. So, anything else you want to say about that one, Riley?
I mean, just go on.
I mean, are we planning on formulating a whole sentence out of this?
That was a whole sentence. And I didn't finish that verse.
Right.
There was still two other words in that verse. But I just stopped right there.
Yeah, continue on.
I don't want to make this like super long-winded, but people gotta understand how to break words down. In that alone, you see how I formed the question like that. In this that alone.
That's crazy.
So
And
that
you
that
said
book,
it was 2 more words left in that sentence, or
yeah,
in
it
that
says in the beginning.
verse.
In the verse. In the beginning, God created heaven and earth. That's it.
So go ahead and do the last 2 words, and,
So
and
that's
see what the whole sentence is.
All right.
I know, right? That's wild.
All right. Let me get back to it. Let me see.
This series gonna take forever.
Yeah, and I
mean
don't know
that.
if I wanted to. I just want
Nah,
people
it's
to
cool.
grasp,
It's cool. It's cool. I think it's cool.
read better, break, understand what you're reading, break the words down. It just so happened to be this particular book today.
It's gonna take time to get through that. You see what I'm saying? So I think it'll be alright. I think it's cool, man. Even if it take a year, the whole year,
God
to
damn.
do this. So we gotta break
Oh,
out
well,
this.
just gotta learn how to reference the words, put it together.
Cause I'm thinking like when we go back and watch this, I'm gonna write these sentences down. I'm gonna write
You
these
supposed to be
sentences
doing that
down.
now.
No, I mean we'll go back and watch it and write the sentences down as we go.
Okay, so
The last 2 words.
it's
That's
three.
it.
It's 3 words. My bad. Created heaven and earth.
Ooh.
So in the beginning, God created heaven and
created.
earth. So we about to deal with created.
Mm.
All right, let me get to it. So created, it's already given me the primitive root. You see it right here. It says bara, primitive root. Most of them words in the Old
Say what?
Testament, right here. Bara.
Okay.
Then you see how I say primitive root.
Okay.
These people know, like I said earlier, they know these roots. They're going to use words like primitive or of uncertain origin. So always keep that in mind. All right. So that word, this is the word for created. Bara, and it means to shape, fashion, to create of an individual man of new conditions or circumstances. It also means to cut down or to make yourselves fat. So if I'm reading this in the regular way, in the beginning God created heaven and earth, where does that fit in the story that we were given? It don't make no sense. And this is why people don't like this book, because that shit don't make sense. But in the context that I said about some mighty men that were easily shaken, now you could kind of see how create would fit. So when I scroll down to the bottom to get the whole meaning of the word, it gives me to cut out, where is it? To cut down, to polish, and to separate. So these mighty men that were easily shaken, something was cut down or formed, because it also says of new conditions and circumstances. So that's what create would mean in Semitic. All you could get, and it gives me like 10 different versions. When you read in the context, you could put the words together to figure out which meaning do I need to use for the word. Just like we have the number 2, we have TOO, we have TO. If I just say 2, I have to use it in the right way so the rest of the sentence can make sense. If I say I got 2 Twix candy bars, then that means number 2. If I'm saying I'm going to the store, that's TO. But if I said I like pizza and Sanchez does too, then that's TOO. So these words, you have to know what they mean to know how to make your sentence mean what you want it to mean. That's all we're trying to do here. That's what the writer intended for, but it got misconstrued over the years. So it also has for create, to birth something new. All right. So now the next word is heaven. So heaven is already in its etymology form. The word would be shamayim, and that would mean, let's see, it could mean heaven or sky. It could mean that. The other meaning is the universe, the atmosphere. What else we got? Let's see. I see G.A. Cook. So I see Cook again with capital G.A. like the abbreviation for Georgia. Got G.A. Cook again. What else we got? Let's see.
As a meaning of the word?
Yeah, so the full meaning of it, when I keep scrolling down, it says from the root firmament, it says which seems to be spread out like a vault over a globe as supported on foundations and columns. All right, so that would be heaven. And it also means, it says the root word in unused root meaning to be lofty. So that's what I was looking for. I was looking for the actual whole meaning of the word. So it says to be lofty. So that's where the dictionary come in at. So if you don't know what lofty mean, I will look that up. I'm not gonna go through that book and pull it up. I'll just pull it up on the dictionary on my phone. Let's see what. So I'm gonna go to Edelman Online, which is an etymology dictionary, and he'll put that in the show notes as well. But I'm gonna look up lofty because it said to be lofty. All right. Now, lofty means exalted of high rank. So that's what heaven would mean, exalted of high rank. We already deal with mighty men or noble men. That's shaken, possibly exalted of high rank. So that kind of go with the word God. Heaven and God, they both meaning of high ranking people.
Said something about cut too. Cut.
To cut, right.
Cut from a different cloth.
Right. Could be that, right? That you see how you coming up with different meanings, because now you're getting different meanings of the word. And it's not intended for it to mean one way.
Mighty men shaking in their height cut from a different cloth. And they height cut from a different cloth.
Now to put that together, we got the last word, earth. All right, and we going. I ain't gonna do no more after this.
Man, it sound like a goddamn song, bro.
So earth, it's a feminine word. All right. Now we always think earth mean like the planet Earth, you know, the globe. That's what most people think it means, right? Mm-hmm. But according to this, it means land, country, territory, district, region, tribal territory, or piece of ground. It's not the whole planet. Inhabitants of a land, city or state. You see how I'm saying things that's something inside the planet, not the planet? Like we all live in states, cities, towns. It's a section what would be called the earth. So it says people of the land, space or distance of a country. It also says lands and countries. Okay, so I'm gonna end that with this right here. I'm gonna speed up a little bit. So most people that's, Christians, they deal with Jesus. And one of the scriptures that they love to say is John 3:16. And in John 3:16 it says, for he loved the world that he gave up his own begotten son. Now world, again, when reading that, we would think the planet, like earth. But world wouldn't mean that. It meant class of people. So for example, if y'all watch boxing, UFC, wrestling, you have a world title. It'll say world heavyweight champion. That's a certain class of a certain weight class. But then you'll have world lightweight champion. That's a different class. Heavyweight and lightweight, two totally different classes. Mm-hmm. But it's called world class for that class. They're the champion of that class. That's why it's world heavyweight, world lightweight, world flyweight, because world is the class. It's not the planet. Because why use two different words to mean the same thing? Earth and world, they don't mean the same thing. Even in planet Earth, that's the planet Earth. But in the context of what I just read, it's a district in a piece of land. It's a country. It's a state. It could be a city or town. So when we go outside and put our feet to the ground, we put our feet on the earth. But it's the piece of ground that we standing on. It ain't. We're not standing on everywhere in the whole planet when we put our feet on. It's where my feet are right now is where I'm standing on that piece of land.
Right.
So you put all that together, the last word would be it said tribal grounds or territory, not the whole planet. So if we was to read it in the normal way, we would think it's the creation story of the sky and the planet. But I just gave y'all the meanings of these words, and we only dealing with some people in a particular region of wherever the region is at, and we got a glimpse of where they could be at in the words in the beginning, because it put Duval on there, which also said the town of the Simeonites. So we got confirmation from the beginning of that verse to the end of that we are not talking about a whole planet, because it said for in the beginning, which was the first 3 words, it translated to a town of Simeonites, not a planet of every living human being. That's just verse 1.
This what you plan on doing?
So I said, I don't know if y'all want to do this, man. This.
So
Show you where we at with it. Just that one verse.
And when we talking about Duval, if you just Googled it, you're gonna get Jacksonville first, Duval County. That's gonna pop up first. I'm not gonna say it's not other places in the world named Duval, but people hear Duval, you're gonna think Lil Duval first, and he reps where he from to the fullest. That's hence his name Lil Duval, because he from Duval County. And for shout out to people who from down there, I done been down there, they lit down there, different vibe down there.
Yeah, it's a dope city.
Yeah. So, questions, comments, concerns, let me know, man. I don't want to feel like I don't know everything, y'all. The more I learn, the more I know nothing. So, I ain't nobody. I'm just reading.
I ain't knocking it. I'm saying, I mean, let's we either continue or you got a question, because I can't even think of a question. I don't even know if the question I got makes sense.
Well,
to even say.
Y'all been talking about make America great again. I mean, I mentioned in America a couple of them. Well again.
Make America well again.
The height of the South. I mean, Duval, Cook. I mean, we already mentioned some American things just in that verse. And y'all could take it as that ain't what that is. That's fine. I'm just telling you what these scholars put out there. That's all. I ain't making this up.
So why use those words in that way?
What do you mean? Exactly.
How they're used in that verse. Why would someone use those words? Why do you feel like someone would use those words in that way?
The original writer, or what do you mean? Like the original writers?
No, not the original writer. The translation.
The translation didn't take away from it. It's people didn't translate the words. The translation didn't take away nothing from it. Because if it did, I would have never got to the origin of the word. But
it don't mean what it would mean after.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? After learning that or seeing that, it don't mean the same.
Well,
not from what we taken, not from what we learned what it means.
That's the point.
Well, let's look at it like this. King James, right, is the one who published it. Mm-hmm. During his time, it's a lot of turmoil going on, a lot of wars. And what kings like to do, they want to live forever. So they will do things that'll make them last or their lineage last, because kingdoms is all about bloodlines. People infiltrate bloodlines, people kill off bloodlines, or bloodlines maintain and run the kingdom. Typically, when you have a king and queen, their child that comes from them is next to the throne, typically. So if you want to preserve yourself in history as a king or queen, you're going to write it down, you're going to have it carved etched in stone. You might build statues about it. You know, most statues we see anywhere in the world is usually about somebody who's been dead already, but it's like they living on, you know, from times after them, because we see an image of them or of their work. So
Memorialized.
say it again.
In memoriam.
God, exactly. Hell, a family member die, you put a tombstone on top of where they at. You know what I'm saying? To always remember them. So you might go to a family grave and you might see family that been dead 200 years out there. The point is to always remember their name. You know, so if I'm on that level, I'm gonna do something that's gonna keep my name ringing forever and ever. I want everybody to know about my bloodline, my people, my time of living. Okay, so that is why I would write these down. But also consider, I gave you the origin of the words. This man already knew that. So
Who, King James?
yeah, so if he's translating it in English, the foundation is already of Semitic origin. These people already knew that. So they're not taken away from the originators. People say what they want about King James, but if you really study King James, he is of Shemitic bloodline anyway. So he's not doing nothing outside of what's already in his blood. You know, he's keeping his legacy on, and the people before him and the ones after him. That's what kings do. Even if you're not a king, that's what we do as families. Somebody died, we're gonna put it on the back of a shirt, long live such and such. Or, you know, things, we always commemorate the ones that left us. And if we leave, we want to be commemorated. So that is why it's written down like that. He is talking about things in his time or times a little bit before him. It's basically like a newspaper, like current events. And that's what's going on when they're writing these things down.
So there's a misunderstanding in interpretation.
There's a misunderstanding, but even this particular king was so vast at his time. When people go to wars back then, not even just back then, even 1800s, 1900s, you still everything about the people you're trying to fight, including their writings. So if writings wasn't important, and usually the writings is about them. So if writings wasn't important, you wouldn't try to steal that or capture it. Just burn it and it'd be done away with it. But they capture these and they put these in museums and things like that. Not just the Bible, like all type of old manuscripts that come from people, from ancient people that were being conquered, or so to speak. You know, so you're just trying to do it in preservation. But the key is, our people tend to do things in code anyway. So you were talking about rap earlier. You'll write a bar down, but the punchlines in the bar, everybody might not see it. Or some people would catch it and then try to explain it to somebody and they still won't catch it. It's not for everybody to catch. That is a thing that's an innate nature, I think, about us. Everything we do is coded. It's from the way we dress to the way we wear our hair, everything we do. So in that sense, I would think King James would be of the brown persuasion because of how the words are put together. He was talking about making a rap out of this shit because that's how rappers write.
That's what it sounds like it's coming out of the beat.
Yeah, rhythm shit.
Yeah, like
And everybody don't get that. Everybody not born with that type of cadence, so to speak.
And cultural interest.
Yeah, it's a cultural thing. It's doing what's been in his DNA. That's what we all do. Speaking in a cadence, I'm writing a cadence. And for those who catch it, catch it. If you don't, you don't. Probably wasn't meant for you anyway.
So, what does interpretation mean in that sense of that scripture right there?
What does interpretation mean? Or you mean what does that interpretation mean?
Yeah, what does that interpretation mean? Or how can that be interpreted wrong?
it can be interpreted wrong because they ain't look up what the words were, plain and simple.
Right.
And then if you want to control somebody or people for your gain,
You suppress the information.
you suppress the information, or you might not even know the information, but you savvy enough to use it to capture the ear to get what you need. So I said it's like faith. Faith could be used for good or evil. It has no respect or person. It works for it. Once you learn the magic of it, you can use it how you need to.
That's what I'm saying. Like a whole different context is being put on that. You see what I'm saying? A whole different context has been put on that verse itself in modern day time.
Correct, because we got, like I said earlier, we got geography out of that. We got we got a little bit of
science.
We got a little bit of science out of it, and
what is science?
Language. Well, actually, no, we didn't get science. That'll be like the next ones. We got location and language.
Right.
We got geographical shit, and etymology. Those two things is what we have war about in the first place. People want other people's shit in their geographical territories. And it'd be a language barrier. It might be we speak the same language, but we ain't speaking the same language. So we're gonna fight about that. That's what war is always about, somebody else's shit. I want what you got, and we can't have a meeting of the minds on it, so there's gonna be some bloodshed about it. Since we talking language. Language is universal. You can speak it, you can fight it, you can play it, instruments, whatever.
Body
language. You can speak to animals. we got pets. You got a dog and they bark. You say sit and it's trained to understand what you're saying. It might not speak English, but it knew what you said. So language is probably one of the best things ever. Like, if not the best thing ever, because it's universal. You can even speak to plants. Language is what makes the world go around. When we don't understand each other's language based on what it is, we might fight about it, or somebody might die about it. For instance, if we walking out and I bump another individual and I don't say, excuse me, my apologies or whatever, he may look at me like, what the hell your problem? The language is we already speaking the language. His body language is like, excuse you. I might be like, nigga, I ain't saying nothing. People die about that, miscommunication of language, just right there. So you can see how powerful language could be for good or for evil. People die about it, people get rich about it, people stay broke about it.
No doubt. How important is it to put it in its proper context? How you feel?
Well, for one, as we'll go through the series and we start getting into people in this book, we might see that you might descend from that individual or individuals. And we all been talking about genealogy and all these things over the past year or so. We've been seeing it all over social media or whatever the case is, on the news. And if these people are real in this book, because a lot of people live and die by this book now, we want to at least unmuddy the water to see where you fit in at about it. One thing about black people, most of us, we done came up around that book, even if we don't understand it. We done seen it, we done been in churches, whatever the case, aunties' houses, whatever, it's a love-hate relationship with that book. So I feel like we should at least see if there's a common ground in it.
At least understand it.
At least understand it, right.
So now, how many more do you want to do? We already an hour in, bro. You want to?
I just did that.
You want to do one more verse or what? Cause I got another question right here from.
Well, let's deal with the
what they're
questions.
saying is, they're basically saying that, I don't know, maybe I guess he looked it up, but he said world means all land.
Okay,
But
world
you was
world
saying-
could mean all land depending on the context of the word being used. So I said, if you look up a word, it might have 6, 7 different meanings on it. But for the sake of the one I read, they didn't use the word world. They used the word earth. Now, doesn't earth and world in our just basic meaning, we would think it mean the same thing. We say the world, we'll think the whole world or the earth. I'm saying most people do. I'm saying the common language without no etymologies. People use earth and world interchangeably, right? That's what I'm saying. People say the planet Earth. Some people say the world.
Well,
Because they don't understand etymology.
And I guess that's how we kind of been taught.
That's my
Because
point.
it goes back to the song, "You got the whole
Exactly.
world." But I don't think like that. You got your world. He's a world. I'm my
Exactly.
own world. You know what I'm saying? That's
Exactly.
how I look at it.
Exactly.
That's me. But
And you could look up whatever. At the end of the day, if you look at, you got to look up the root meaning. That's what etymology means. None of these words have no value without a root meaning, because these words mean something else. It's point blank, period. You know, we speak in the English language, but English language comes from another language. So you gotta kind of know, if you really trying to see what's what, you gotta understand what the different words mean. Like I used with the number 2 earlier. Or not, I just said number 2, but then you got 2 other versions of 2. You got sale.
with the twos.
Yeah, with the 2.
With the twos.
You got, what, 3 versions of 2s?
3 versions.
But the number 2 is just 2? 3 versions of 2s. That's crazy.
Right.
The etymology is important. We weren't taught etymology coming up in America speaking English. We were just taught language arts or, you know, English literature.
And Webster.
And Webster, yeah. But not what that word meant depending on how you write it. Because this book is, how many centuries? 15th, 16th century? They don't even speak that type of English today. That's what they call Old English.
Do they teach it in the church?
Nah, a lot of the churches now will even use a newer version of the Bible, which takes away from the etymology, because they'll take words out, put their own shit in. So for it to fit the meaning of today's world, the problem with that is that I see, like if you read in the Bible and they talking about Daniel in the lion's den, I've seen at these churches, many of these churches, they'll take Daniel in the lion's den and compare that to you not having money to pay your bills. Oh, you going through turmoil like Daniel in the lion's den, but God gonna make a way for you to feed your babies or pay that light bill. You cannot compare the two, them 2 different things. Let's say that Daniel in the lion's den was a real instance. I'd rather be dealing with how I'm gonna get my bills paid than be dealing with a bunch of lions in the lion's den. I'm not gonna die about that light bill getting paid. You sit in a lion's den, you fool. But that's how, as simple as that sounds, that's literally how they do that Sunday after Sunday. And using situations in that book to compare it to your
emotion,
everyday life today.
Your everyday emotions and life to explain.
Or like Jonah in the belly of a whale, you'll compare that.
Not explain, but to confirm.
Yeah, like you comparing a bad situation that's a life and death to feeding your family. And that's a problem.
Another, they say, Earth is a planet.
It can be, depending on the context, brother or sister, who I can't see who's saying that.
Brother, his name Shay, Mr. Shay.
Earth can mean that, but I also just gave you different meanings of what Earth meant. That's what etymology come in, y'all. That's what I'm saying. Etymology is a thing. It might be new to what y'all used to, but that's old. Etymology. What is the root meaning of the word?
How do you know when to use it a certain way?
You said,
Good
how you
question.
know what? Say it one more time.
How do you know when to use it a certain way?
That's for the individual.
when to-
That's for the individual that's trying to get their point across. That's for the individual who wants to use the words. we can't determine that because we don't know what you're trying to say. We have to figure it out.
That's a great point.
Yeah, it's up to the individual who wants to put their point across.
That go back to the slang, to the context of
like
the time.
I said the other time when I used stupid as an analogy.
Right.
Like, haha, nigga, you stupid. But most people think stupid just mean like you can't read or not smart. But I didn't mean that. My whole body language went with my words. Haha, nigga, you stupid. Because I'm trying to say he's silly or he's funny. So I use my words and my body language. It's all about the intent of how I'm trying to get my point of calling him stupid about. Now, if I was just like, he said something, I'm like, nigga, you stupid. I might have had it with intent like, nah, that was dumb what you just said.
Right.
So it's up to the individual who's saying the point or writing their point to convey it how they want. That's why words have multiple meanings.
That's why you got
y'all using meanings of just one meaning, but the word might have 10 different meanings. It's up to you to break that down in your
That's why
communication.
context clues.
Context clues.
Because you got to read that sentence and the next one,
Exactly.
the one before it.
Exactly.
To see what the overall, climate of the conversation. Man.
And that is something we learned in school. That right there.
Context clues.
Exactly. Hopefully that answered that question.
And you got to read it with that in mind. So it take education just to get to the point where you can read it in that mind. I mean, you could, or training. You got to train yourself. Keep a dictionary right next to you, so when you run into words, you know what I'm saying? Because you got to keep in that state of mind. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Now, I will say, for me, I wasn't always a reader. I'm 38 years old now. I just started reading. I never was illiterate. I knew how to read, but I didn't mess with books until I was probably 27 years old. And the only reason why I started, because I heard someone tell me a quote from Henry Ford, but I don't think Henry Ford is the original person of the quote. But anyway, he said, if you want to hide something from a black man, put it in a book. So that was like, why would he say that? That's what made me started to read a proper way. But my mother was always big on making sure I knew how to read and write. So I never was dumb. I just ain't like to read.
Right.
Until I heard that. And that wasn't until I was a whole adult with a family and all that. So, yeah.
So it depends on so you're saying it depends on the intent
of the person trying to communicate it.
Of the person trying to communicate.
It's just like if you writing a song, the song might have intent behind the words, and different fans of the artist might all interpret it different until you sit and watch the interview of the artist when they ask them about that song and they say what it meant. And then people be like, damn, I didn't know that's what that song meant.
Can you, man, this is kind of off the, whatever, but that whole thing of wanting to know how to read for those reasons is that's redirecting rebellious nature or the idea of not wanting to get toyed with. You know what I'm saying? To say that is to, you know what I'm saying? We should take that as fuel to flip this motherfucker. A lot of the energy is misdirected and misguided, so it's that's the energy I'm talking about. If they know that this one thing will really fuck their shit up, let's do that.
Yeah. Because I was somebody who, I grew up in a community where reading was not fundamental. It was frowned upon.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So usually the kid that was the reader or the brains in the class, they was getting picked on and all that. So just like most of our communities. So
how long you think that been a thing?
Say that again?
How long you think that been a thing? Because how can you have high society if that's the mentality? That gotta be new, right?
Yeah, I would say, well, I don't know, because new, you can't put it, new could mean, that could be 50 years, 100 years, last week, today. I would say, as far as our people here in America, we were, as far as school, they gave us what to read. It wasn't like we could pick what we want to read. They gave us what to learn. Instead of us letting our brain in there, exactly. That in itself. So you could be the greatest reader in your class, but you only reading what they are giving you.
And you just soaking that shit
and
up.
And you
faster
soaking it up,
than
thinking that's knowledge, what really is dumbing you down.
And even you start to even express the body language of that context.
Exactly.
Yeah. Internalize that shit.
Yeah, internalize it.
So you just a smart ass
dummy.
traitor.
You smart, but you dumb. You smart in their works, but you know nothing about yours as far as your people.
To the point where you look down upon your own thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you so indoctrinated into their thing.
Exactly.
And they sitting there saying, in the beginning.
Like, how can a nigga work for the CIA?
You feel me? In the beginning.
You stupid.
You feel me?
Yeah, man. So reading is fundamental, but you gotta understand we speak English language, and our language got words that might mean 30 different things. Somebody got something else on there?
Nah.
So yeah, man. But that applies for any ancient book. If I had the Quran right here, you could do the same thing because it has the English and then it has the Arabic. The English is translated to Arabic. So you can do that with any book. Even if you're reading a Dr. Seuss book, goddammit. It's English, but you're so used to speaking it, you think you're using all your words properly. And the writer or the songwriter or whoever, and that ain't even the intent that you thought.
Can you reiterate the point of this conversation?
Make America well again?
Well, not that deep.
Niggas in the Bible?
Yeah, kind of that. Like,
damn.
just reiterate, like.
Well, I think, yeah. Well,
you get into the deep metaphysical shit. Then
we went to
like
Duval.
I mean, if y'all been in Duval County, that speaks for itself. But
no, I mean this conversation, the whole study or the whole series on the Bible.
I'm trying to understand, like, what do you?
We on one verse in.
Yeah, I think it's important to keep a like a gyroscope, keep the shit. So we gotta stay centered on the point. We get so far along these streams of thought, we kind of lose the main point. You know what I'm saying? Like,
before you answer that.
The reason for wanting to understand the context to the language is what? As it relates to what's being said. You know what I'm saying? Like,
you mean what's been said over time of
what's the
in
point
media and all this? Or even y'all platform and everything? Is that, you mean, how do we combine this to us? Like, what this got to do with us, basically?
Yeah, what this got to do with us, right?
Like, share, and follow on YouTube. Like, share, and follow on Instagram.
Yeah, what this got to do with us?
Damn, how can I do that? Because I only read one part. How can I do that and stay?
Because,
on the
we talking about Florida, so.
And then I mentioned Noah with the ark. I did that.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, most people gonna get that we talking about the Bible in Florida in the same. Yeah. But to make it real.
Help me bridge that gap. What you're trying to ask?
Like we talking about a book from a long time ago that the world knows, and there's a chance that same book is talking about niggas over here, right here, where we at.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said there's a chance. That we gonna build on this chance. It's time though. But if you want me to answer that now, like
no church talks about this shit
right
from that angle. All of the world's whole shit is based on a whole nother narrative about what the Bible is.
I agree.
You know what I'm saying? All these different places and all these people with all this power that base wars on the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Or base wars.
Well, man.
Because if the people knew, then they wouldn't go with it. But the people don't know, so they use it. And here we are in this location talking about what's really being said.
Huh. Well, there's so many points to hit that with.
There's not that many niggas.
So many angles
place,
to try to even tackle that.
From this place where the Bible supposedly started, talking about the fact that the Bible probably started in this place. Mm-hmm. How the shit go full circle?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if a people has been in the Bible, you'll see.
Hey, give me one too, man.
You'll see.
And get him one too.
Yeah, he good.
What you want?
Whatever you get, man. Not tequila though.
Whatever saying.
You said, but you already know what I'm getting. That's what I'm getting.
Something brown, man.
Whatever he doing.
Bourbon or something.
He doing. How's that?
Bourbon.
Just put some tea or soda with mine. Like
sure, you don't want you want bourbon. Bourbon. Yeah.
Just give me a soda with it.
All right, I go like Pepsi,
yeah.
Ginger ale.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just to keep the conversation centered. Mm-hmm. So we know what the fuck we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get, we know what we're talking about, so they don't.
Mm-hmm. Well, most people have heard the descendants of the Bible. Most people have heard it, and by the time where we at in 2024, that those people would be the Negroes in America or maybe some other people in Africa. It's been going on a lot. So for the past few years, you know what I'm saying, a lot has been shedding out a lot of light on it. Certain celebrities been speaking on it and got scrutinized. That whole Kyrie Irving thing, that was last year. Kanye, those are just a few, but that's been something that's been talked about for a while. So regardless of the religious background, people are looking into that more. So with that being said, just from that alone, as we start going through these scriptures, we may or may not see our face or our tendencies in these folks that's written in this book. And we know a lot, like he mentioned earlier, a lot of wars have been fought over this book. But even the people in the book, is wars going on and they suffering during that time. So hopefully as the series is done, whenever that is, we could put all this together and see, do we fit there, and see how we can move into the future. Because as far as America goes, a lot of black people have been learning their history to the point where they take it to court and they getting their family stuff back. Now, to kind of go more what you said, you know, all these other countries and things in this book, you know, you wouldn't see that as America. You would see it as somewhere in the Middle East, you know. But based on what we read earlier today, I see Duval County, so that's American based in itself. Duval is a city with a lot of us there, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, we'll see over time how this goes, but we definitely trying to keep it from a historical standpoint, seeing if it fits us as us here in America. Because
we ain't even seeing it. We ain't even looking for that. We just seeing where it go, and that's where it seems to go.
That's my intent, to see if it. Because if it doesn't, why am I doing it for?
Well, I'm saying if you looking forward, like, I guess you kind of have to look forward to see it.
Yeah, you got to. You can't undo that. Thank you, brother. Mm-hmm. You can't undo that.
Appreciate it. Yeah, you have to know what you're looking forward to see.
Dallas got whooped. 48-22.
Sheesh.
What I miss?
Because like you said about the wording, you gotta have a certain understanding to know what they saying. Sentence to sentence and verse to verse.
I'm trying to see if I can say this without being off track. But shit, why not? We speak English. That's what we've been talking about. We were taught about slavery, how we learned from our masters. All of that, I'm about to say all that good stuff. I caught myself. All of that stuff, right? My problem with that is, if that was the case, and we learned from people who was employing us, but the people in history that were coming over here doing that were not English-speaking people. Most of them were Spanish, Portuguese-speaking people. So why is that not our native tongue, since we are descendants of people who come from, quote-unquote, 400 years of slavery? Why we don't still... If we doing everything based on what they taught us, and then they just freed us and say, "Hey, be free, go chase the American dream," whatever that is, and we out here doing that, but all those people coming over here were not Englishmen. They
like they adopted us.
They were Spanish.
Adopted our.
And I said English was Semitic. So if the English would be with England, but they don't even speak the same English we speak over here. If they're the enslavers, they still speak the language of this people they descended from. And if they taught us, that's fine. But the problem is, it wasn't Englishmen coming over here. It was Spanish and Portuguese. That should be our native, because we are the descendants of slaves, and the slaves ain't know how to read or write, as from what they told us. How the hell? Allegedly. That's what I said, from what they told us. How do we speak English today?
Sounds like they adopted our culture.
People say British. Great Britain.
And so if King James was this, people say King James was this gay white man and all of these things. But who taught him English if the words are Shemitic in origin? Like, how do they know to translate that? In order to translate something, you already have to know the language of what you're translating. That's why when you have a translator present, they already, exactly, they know both sides. How can I translate something I don't know what it is? So how can I even, to your point earlier, how can I even change the language if I don't already know it? So King James got this stuff translated by like 50 or 60 different writers. They already had to know that original language. The same like when Columbus came, his translator spoke the language of the people that they met when they came here. So how does that come about and we speak English today when everybody coming over here was Spanish, Portuguese, and French? I ain't hear nothing about no Englishmen coming over here and enslaving. By the time they coming over, they already coming in, working systems already been in place, and they were coming over here poor as shit. So they had to work too. So why is that our native language, but slavers wasn't English? And now we talking about a book that's written in English. So that's just something to think about as we go through these series.
Yeah. Damn, we need one verse.
Well, I told y'all, I said I'm probably gonna just do one, cause yeah. And as we go through the series, we can't go verse to verse to verse to verse. Man, this shit'll be 10 years long. So as we go on, I think what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna start picking certain individuals in the Bible that we have heard of and build on it the same way I just did these other words. Because some people are familiar with the names, but not every piece of the script, Bible, you know what I'm saying? To try to not make this long-winded. Because I already talk kind of calm anyway. I don't want to be making people feel sleepy and shit.
Yeah, I definitely got to go back and rethink the strategy for this series, man.
I'm sure you rethink it. What that mean?
I mean, I'm just saying the way
you see how that was one verse, bro. You see all that came out of that.
We're hour 32.
We can't go.
You breaking down.
We can't go scripture to scripture to scripture to scripture, bro. This will never end, bro. That's what I'm saying. I'm gonna pick certain individuals out the book and just elaborate. The common people, that people have heard of in their life.
It was important.
The niggas in the Bible, exactly.
Yeah, it was important to talk about that part.
Yeah.
Like introducing the concept.
Yeah.
To now going into actually doing it. Have look at it with that, different eyes and shit.
I'm curious to hear some bars if you do come up with something off of that. I'm curious to see what you did.
I'm gonna have to pull that blue thing up.
Yeah, Blue Letter Bible, y'all. BlueLetterBible.com.
I'm gonna pull that up and get some bars out of there to use.
Now, one more thing to think about. That's Old Testament. When you get to the New Testament, there is no Hebrew. It's a whole nother language. It's Greek. So if we get into those areas, you have to think, well, why would they change the language from quote unquote Hebrew to now all Greek translation? There are no Hebrew translations for the New Testament. It's all Greek, Greco-Roman.
Wait a minute. Wait, how's that possible?
So if y'all think about
when some of the same words are used in the Old Testament as used in the New Testament.
There's some of the same English words, but the writers of the Old Testament never wrote the New Testament.
But if some of the same words are used,
the words as far as a language, like English, yes.
Yeah.
But there is no New Testament writings from the Old Testament writers.
It's like having a sequel with brand new motherfuckers who ain't never even had a talk before.
It's like having Full House with niggas on it. No white people. whole new different thing. So Jesus is New Testament.
Right.
The problem is that I need people to think about when he was allegedly running around doing his ones and twos, he would always quote scripture. It was never New Testament, because the New Testament is supposed to be about him and his life.
He's talking Old Testament.
Exactly. There was no New Testament when this individual was allegedly running around. It was only Old Testament. Jewish people, they don't have New Testament. They only have Old Testament.
It's like living single and friends.
Exactly. And you try to mash that together. Yeah.
So heaven in the Old Testament and the New Testament don't mean the same as heaven in the Old Testament.
First of all, Greco-Roman and Shemitic, two totally different dialects, not even dialects, two totally different languages. That's like French and Chinese. Excuse me, because I know better to say that. French and Mandarin.
He cleaned up the Chinese.
Yeah, because you never know, man. People be on the internet, be looking for shit like that. I see him.
Yeah, he's full of hate.
Yeah. French and Chinese, two totally different things. Or Chinese and Japanese, and they closer to each other.
Or Oriental. You could have said Oriental.
Oh, yeah, but I wanted to be specific. Oriental is all of them. Right. That's like saying American, but I'm from New York and somebody from St. Louis got two different things.
Right.
So, yeah. He thinking again. That's the whole point. Get the wheels turning. That's all. Get the wheels turning. So when Jesus ran around, he was not quoting New Testament, y'all. He had to quote Old Testament because there was no New Testament. So if he lived and died, there was no New Testament. So he wasn't reading from that shit neither. So why do modern Christians do?
So are you saying that you know how they use the expression the Bible was used in slavery to enslave us?
Yes. Yeah.
How true is that?
How true is
or
that?
How would you word that?
Okay.
Or how would you see that? Because you know they try to portray it like they read certain parts of the Bible. And,
yeah.
You know, niggas couldn't read certain parts of the Bible.
Yeah.
And they would watch them. But you read them verses.
Right.
How did that whole thing work? In actuality, not the narrative.
All right. Well, I'm not gonna use my opinion. We're gonna use something that everybody can go see and visit. So, if you go to Savannah, Georgia, they have the First African Baptist Church right downtown in the main part by the Savannah River.
It's called the First African Baptist Church?
Yes, and this shit is like literally the first one in America. Like the date is on there like 17 something.
Wow.
So, and then they have a bottom section of this church where they said the slaves will hide. So it's like 4 feet high. I'm 6'2". So imagine me crouched down for 6 hours trying to hide. That's rough. So anyway, at this church, they give you a tour. Then they have a part upstairs, like a balcony area and like a theater. They have these old church pews. That's the wooden pews that are at older churches. On the side of these pews, there's a language written on it. First they said it was Hebrew. So what happened was all these Hebrew Jewish scholars from Israel, I think it was Tel Aviv University, that's a big college in Israel. They came over to interpret these writings on the side of this church. I mean, outside of the church, on the side of these chairs. They can't translate it because why? They speak modern Hebrew. So they said, we can't speak this, but this is the earliest form of Hebrew, which would be Shemitic. The problem with that is they said at this tour, the slaves wrote that. They wrote these carvings on the side of these pews. So the slaves couldn't read or write. He said they were supposed to read certain parts of the Bible, which would have been in English, yet they wrote in Shemitic on the side of the church pews. There's no translation nowhere, and you can't find it. They won't, and if it's out, it's not out for the public to see. But y'all can physically go look at these and see them. They on the side of the church pews, and these are original pews from, like, I think they said at the time I visited, it was something 200 something years old. But they said the slaves wrote that. How the slaves learn Shemitic? They couldn't read or write. You was told to read certain parts of the Bible, as he said, which would have been in English. You coming over here from Africa, you're supposed to lose your language and learn their language. Yet you learn how to write in Shemitic. Now that's the upstairs part of the church. The downstairs part of the church, like near the basement area where the slaves was hiding, they have a big ass wooden pew. Not a pew, a pulpit, big as hell. They tell you it's made out of gopher wood. Now, if you just read up on gopher wood,
who tell you it's made out of?
The tour guides at the church.
Okay.
They say it's this gopher wood, and they had this there for years, and it's a big ass wall.
Slab.
And it's a brick wall, but they said there's something behind the brick wall. They put brick over it, like old books and shit, so we can't even see that. But anyway, this church podium, it said it's made out of gopher wood. So when I went, one of my sons was around 11 at the time, and he says, well, how do slaves get the gopher wood? Because gopher wood comes from the Middle East. So they say the slaves also built this podium that they said was made out of pure gopher wood in Savannah, Georgia. So they said the slaves built that church. They said the slaves would bring up the bricks from near the Savannah River, and they would carry it on their backs because the church ain't far from the river. So they said they would do brick by brick for years to build this church. So slave foundation is even taught at this church. Yet there's Hebrew, Semitic writings on the side of the church.
Is it Hebrew or Semitic?
It's Semitic because the Hebrew speakers could not translate it, and they said it's an older form than what they speak today, which would be Semitic.
So some Hebrew speakers went there
from Israel, because that's what they speak over there.
From Israel?
Tel Aviv.
Like the real ones?
Tel Aviv, the university, that's over there. So the church pew, I keep saying pew, the podium made out of gopher wood. My son asked the guides how they get gopher wood when that comes from Middle East and they're slaves. So we don't have UPS back then, none of that to ship it. Slaves ain't got money, they slaves. How do they get the gopher wood? The answer was, that's a great question and a good point. We can't answer that right now.
So he was.
I told y'all.
He was just playing with him when he said that.
But my son ain't. At that time, what I'm telling y'all today, I didn't even know that about the trees. Know that. It was just a point where me and my kids was looking at each other, like, and everybody else in the guide, they was looking like, damn, that's a good point. So that is the same wood that was used for Noah's Ark. Now I told you, Savannah. For those who know the area, if you in Savannah, Georgia, you ain't got to drive but 45 minutes to an hour to get to Florida. Mainly Jacksonville, Florida, Duval County, by the way.
Right there.
You can attest to it. So, yeah, how did these African Negro slaves get gopher wood that is something from the Middle East, yet go upstairs and write a Semitic language? But we were told we can only read certain parts of the book. Last part of the tour, they do tell you.
It's 95, right?
The highway. Yeah. Another part of the tour, they say, is when the overseers would send spies out, because we had, they quote unquote let us have church on Sundays. So when the state, but we knew what to look for the spies. So they said, when the spies come in, they'll be in there praying. They have to change up their prayer. So when the spy come, they hear them praying to Jesus. Then as soon as they leave, they go back to their original prayer. They did not say what that original prayer was. This is what the guide says. So they said, so my son says again, well, what were they praying to, or who were they praying to, or how did they pray after they left? They was like in their original. The original.
That's all it said.
Yep. So yeah. Hopefully that answers that with we were told to read this book and that book.
I think you kind of laid it out, man, because it's like before having the breakdown, you gotta prepare.
Yeah, this was preparation.
Yeah, preparation.
It's preparation. Yeah. For more to come. Hold up, we got a comment.
Sheesh, that's on type right there.
I know. Savannah is the another church. There's the laws.
I can't see that. I see a lot of churches.
A lot of churches teach that the laws and the holy days of Old Testament were done away with because Jesus died on the cross. Is that mentioned in the King James Version somewhere?
Great question. Should I answer that now?
How much time you got? It's 10 minutes to 8.
So what was the last part? Is it mentioned anywhere? No, it's not. So
that was easy to simple up. Next.
Well, as far as the words of Jesus, right? He said that he never came to destroy the law, but to fulfill it. So when he was saying that in context, he was talking to the scribes and the Pharisees. So that would be the Jewish priests and politicians. So they would come up with all these laws of how they felt the citizens should live. And he was combating that. So all them arguments when he was a kid, and they would say he would leave his parents and be sitting in the temple talking with the grown men. Those are who those grown men were. Lawmakers, like our politicians. And so he never mentioned anything about doing away with it, because he said he came to fulfill it. The misinterpretation is people don't know what he was fulfilling. So that means he never was changing it. He was trying to keep the ancient tradition of the laws there. But the government was doing different things to keep the people under suppression.
Ain't that the age-old story, though?
That is the age-old story.
Because we talking about heritage and what's important. It always seemed like it's motherfucker who want to draw from. Like, you got the native people, only fucking words, whatever. The people that's from there doing what they do, to, commercialize what they got. But then you got the motherfuckers who want to come there and say, fuck all the sacred shit. I don't care nothing about that. I'm gonna just extract. And it always come down to the, because then the politics get involved. Try to start changing laws to where they could take your shit. Mm-hmm. And it's always that, moment of truth. Mm-hmm. It's like, no, we trying to keep it right. You here try to, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The same story. Man.
And to go with that question, a lot of these priests today or pastors, they are, many of them, not
compromised.
All of them, they are compromised as a, like 501c3, different things like that. So they.
How dare you talk about TDJ?
So they have
to where, because it's always to where one
they
or
have
a few
to say
motherfuckers gotta
things.
come like yo, nah, we, come on, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
How dare you
shit
talk
crazy.
about crypto dollar?
Yeah.
But y'all going too
Some
far.
of them
like,
have to keep their check going, so they got to stay in the boundaries of what they could portray these messages about those scriptures.
What's the other one you be talking about? The other one we was talking about? The white dude said y'all can't come to my church after the flood.
That's Joe Osteen.
Yeah, how dare you talk about Joe Osteen? How dare y'all?
Yeah, to the point where you get
Y'all
like
like,
that.
share, follow, man.
Well, you don't even want the people in your motherfucking church.
We're gonna go ahead and slide up out of here, man. Appreciate everybody. Their comments. She said Pink said thank you. I definitely see how our government uses the church to push the agenda for control and conformity. Okay. All right, Pink. I'm glad you on your stuff. You know what I'm saying?
What you say? Ain't nothing new under the sun?
Those are definitely
Facts,
good questions
big
that
facts.
keep us on our toes, and that's what we need.
Facts.
Same game.
So,
that, man. Just new
so we
people
can continue to
having that conversation, trying to keep shit right.
platform going. Appreciate that. Appreciate y'all, man, coming through on Instagram. Like I said,
Like, we the niggas flipping tables.
Like, share,
You know what I'm
follow on
Literally.
Instagram. Like, share, and subscribe on YouTube.
Fuck is y'all doing?
P&I, we'll be back. Keep this series going. Black Boom. Monumental.